Before I tell you what's been answering my radio calls for the past 3 weeks, I need you to understand what it's like to be truly alone. Not the kind of alone where you're in your apartment with the door locked. I mean the kind of alone where the nearest human being is 12 miles away down a mountain trail, and if something goes wrong, help isn't coming for hours, maybe not at all. Are you watching this late at night? Maybe you're thinking about applying for a fire lookout job because it sounds peaceful and isolated. Drop a comment and let me know. Because if you've ever romanticized the idea of spending months alone in a tower watching for forest fires, you need to hear this story. What I'm about to tell you will change how you think about isolation forever. My name is Ethan Brooks, and I'm a fire lookout at the Mount Camerer Tower in Great Smoky Mountains National Park. This is my second season. The tower sits at just over 5,000 feet elevation, accessible only by a steep 5-mile trail from the nearest trailhead. During fire season, which runs from April through October, I live up here alone, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, watching for smoke. Most people don't know fire lookouts still exist. They think satellites and drones do all the monitoring now. But in mountainous areas with heavy forest cover, nothing beats human eyes scanning the horizon from a high point. That's my job. Watch for smoke. Report it. That's it. It sounds simple, and for the most part it is. But there are things they don't tell you in the training. Things about being alone for weeks at a time. Things about what isolation does to your mind. And things about what might be living in these mountains that the Park Service doesn't want to acknowledge. 4 months ago, the previous lookout for this tower disappeared. Her name was Sarah Mitchell. 28 years old, experienced lookout, had worked 3 seasons at various towers in the Smokies. On June 15th, she radioed in her evening report at 6 p.m. Everything normal, weather clear, no smoke sightings, signing off for the night. The next morning, she didn't respond to the morning check-in call. Rangers hiked up to investigate and found the tower empty. All her personal belongings were there. Her sleeping bag was laid out like she'd been planning to sleep in it. Food was on the small stove, half prepared. Her radio was on the correct frequency, volume turned up. But Sarah was gone. Search and rescue deployed immediately. They searched for 2 weeks, covering every trail, every ridge, every hollow within a 10-mile radius. They found nothing. No body, no evidence of foul play, no signs of an accident. Sarah Mitchell had simply vanished from a locked tower 15 feet off the ground. The official conclusion was that she'd left the tower for some reason, gotten disoriented in the dark, and fallen or gotten lost in the dense forest. But that didn't make sense. Sarah was experienced. She knew these mountains. And why would she leave the tower at night without taking her radio or flashlight? The case was classified as an unexplained disappearance. The tower sat empty for 6 weeks while the Park Service debated whether to keep it operational. Eventually, they decided the fire risk was too high to leave it unmanned. They posted the position. And I was desperate enough to take it. I started on August 1st. The ranger who escorted me up on my first day was Bob Sullivan, a grizzled guy in his 50s who'd worked in the Smokies for over 20 years. We hiked the 5 miles in relative silence, him setting a brutal pace despite the elevation gain. When we reached the tower, Bob stopped at the base and looked up at the small cabin perched on its metal framework. "You sure about this, Brooks? It's not too late to change your mind." "I'm sure. I need the work, and I like solitude." "Solitude's one thing. Isolation's another. Up here, you're completely cut off. Radio is your only contact with the outside world. If something goes wrong, if you get hurt or sick, help is hours away at minimum." He looked at me seriously. And given what happened to Sarah, some folks think this tower might be cursed. I don't believe in curses. Yeah, Sarah didn't either. Bob handed me a thick binder. This is the operations manual, radio protocols, weather reporting, fire detection procedures. Read it cover to cover. Your life might depend on it. He gave me one more look, like he was trying to decide whether I'd last a week, then headed back down the trail. I climbed the stairs to the tower cabin and stepped inside. The space was small, maybe 12 feet by 12 feet, with windows on all sides providing 360 views of the surrounding mountains. The Smokies stretched out in every direction, layer after layer of blue-green ridges fading into the distance. It was beautiful, peaceful. Exactly what I'd been looking for. The cabin was sparsely furnished. A narrow cot against one wall, a small propane stove, a table with the radio equipment, a detailed map of the area mounted on the wall with a firefinder, a device that looks like a surveyor's tool used to pinpoint smoke locations, shelves with supplies, emergency gear, and the personal items Sarah had left behind. I tried not to think about that last part, about her sleeping bag still laid out, about the book on her table, bookmarks still in place, about the fact that she'd been sitting right where I was sitting when she vanished. The first 2 weeks were uneventful. I fell into the routine easily. Wake at dawn, make coffee on the propane stove, do the morning radio check-in with dispatch. Spend the day scanning the horizon through binoculars, taking weather readings every 3 hours, reading books to pass the time. Evening check-in at 6 p.m. Make dinner. Watch the sunset paint the mountains in shades of orange and purple. Sleep. The isolation was actually peaceful at first. No traffic noise, no crowds, no stress. Just me and the mountains and the endless forest stretching in every direction. At night, the stars were so bright they cast shadows. I'd never seen the Milky Way so clearly. My only human contact was through the radio. Every morning at 7 a.m. and every evening at 6 p.m., I'd check in with dispatch. The dispatcher was a woman named Claire Wagner who'd been doing this job for 15 years. She had a warm, maternal voice that was comforting to hear twice a day. Camera Tower. This is dispatch. Morning check-in. How copy? Dispatch, Camera Tower. Copy clear. Weather is overcast. Temperature 52 degrees. Humidity 70%. Wind calm. No smoke sightings to report. Copy, Camera. Stay safe up there, Ethan. Will do. Camera out. That was my lifeline. Those twice daily conversations kept me grounded, reminded me I was part of something larger than just me and the tower. But after 2 weeks, things started to change. It began with the sounds. At night, I'd hear footsteps on the stairs. The metal framework of the tower conducted sound well, and the stairs made a distinct creaking noise when someone climbed them. I'd hear that creak, slow and deliberate, like someone was climbing up to the cabin. The first time it happened, I grabbed my flashlight and opened the door, ready to confront whoever was out there. But the stairs were empty. Nothing. Just the night and the forest sounds and the wind rustling through the trees. I told myself it was thermal contraction, metal expanding and contracting with temperature changes. That's a thing, right? I'd heard it in buildings before. But the footsteps continued. Every night, usually around 2 or 3 a.m., always the same slow, deliberate rhythm, always stopping just outside the cabin door. Then the knocking started. 3 knocks. Always 3. Tap, tap, tap. On the cabin walls, on the windows, sometimes on the door itself. I'd investigate each time, flashlight in hand, but there was never anyone there. I didn't report this during my check-ins. What would I say? That I was hearing things? They'd pull me off the tower, declare me unfit for duty, and I needed this job. So I kept quiet and tried to rationalize the sounds. 3 weeks into my assignment, something happened that I couldn't rationalize. It was around 10 p.m., and I was getting ready for bed when my radio crackled to life. "Ethan? Ethan, can you hear me?" The voice was female, young, frightened, not Claire's voice. I grabbed the radio. "This is Camera Tower. Who is this?" "It's Sarah." "Sarah Mitchell, I need help. Please, you have to help me." My blood ran cold. Sarah Mitchell, the previous lookout, the woman who'd vanished 4 months ago. This isn't funny. Who is this, really? I'm lost, Ethan. I've been lost for so long. I can see the tower, I can see the light, but I can't reach it. Every time I try to climb, I end up back where I started. Please help me. Where are you? What's your exact location? I don't know. Everything looks the same. Trees and darkness and trails that go nowhere. I've been walking for months. I'm so tired, so hungry. Please, you have to find me. If this is really Sarah Mitchell, tell me something only she would know. Something about this tower. There was a long pause. Then, there's a carving on the underside of the table. Initials. JH plus MT and a heart. I used to trace it with my finger when I was bored. I looked under the table, and there it was, exactly as described, carved deeply into the wood. Old, probably from decades ago, but there. Okay, I said, my hands shaking. Okay, Sarah. I'm going to call for help. I'm going to get search and rescue up here. Just stay where you are and keep talking to me. No! Don't call them. Don't call anyone. They won't understand. They'll make it worse. You have to come alone. You have to find me yourself. I can't do that. I'm not supposed to leave the tower during my shift. If you don't come, I'll die out here. I'm already so weak. Please, Ethan, please. Then the radio went silent. I tried calling back, tried raising her again, but there was no response. Just static. I sat there for an hour, staring at the radio, trying to decide what to do. Finally, I did what I was supposed to do. I radioed dispatch. Dispatch, this is Kammerer Tower. I need to report something unusual. Claire's voice came through, alert despite the late hour. Go ahead, Kammerer. I just received a radio transmission from someone claiming to be Sarah Mitchell, the previous lookout. She said she was lost and needed help. There was a long silence. Then, Ethan, Sarah Mitchell has been missing for 4 months. That's not possible. I know how it sounds, but she knew details about the tower, things she couldn't have known unless she'd been here. Could someone be pranking you? Another hiker with a radio? Maybe. But she sounded genuinely distressed, frightened. Another pause. I'm going to report this to Bob Sullivan. Stay on the tower. Do not, repeat, do not leave your post to investigate. If someone is out there playing games, we'll handle it properly. Understood? Understood. And Ethan? The isolation can play tricks on your mind. If you're hearing things, seeing things, it's nothing to be ashamed of. We can get you rotated out. Let someone else take over for a few weeks. I'm not imagining this, Claire. I heard what I heard. Okay. I believe you. Just stay put. Check in regularly. We'll figure this out. But we didn't figure it out, because the next night it happened again. This time the voice came through around midnight. Ethan, are you there? Did you tell them? Did you call for help? Sarah, is that you? You told them, didn't you? You called dispatch. You broke the rules. What rules? I don't understand what's happening. If you're really Sarah Mitchell, let me help you properly. Let me get search and rescue out here. They won't find me. No one will find me, because I'm not where you think I am. I'm not in the forest. I'm not on the trails. I'm somewhere else. Somewhere the maps don't show. What does that mean? The Smokies are old, Ethan. Older than the park. Older than the rangers. These mountains have places that exist outside normal space. Hidden valleys, secret hollows, places where people disappear and don't come back. You're not making sense. I'm making perfect sense. You just don't want to believe it, but you will, because it's starting with you too. The footsteps, the knocking, the feeling of being watched. That's how it begins. That's how it started with me. How what started? The calling. The mountain wants you. It's been calling to me since my first week. Voices in the forest, lights that move, paths that appear and disappear. I thought I was imagining it. I thought I was going crazy. But then one night I couldn't resist anymore. I had to follow. I had to see what was calling me. What did you find? I found where the lost ones go. I found the place between, and now I can't leave. I can see the tower from here. I can see you inside it, but I can't reach it. Every path leads back to where I started. I'm trapped, Ethan, and soon you will be too. Stop it. You're trying to scare me. I'm trying to warn you. Don't follow the lights. Don't listen to the voices. Don't investigate the knocking. Stay in the tower. Lock the door. And whatever you do, don't come looking for me. If you don't want me to look for you, why are you calling me? There was a long, awful silence. Then, in a voice that wasn't quite Sarah's anymore, something else spoke through the radio. Because I'm lonely. Because I need company. Because the mountain is hungry, and it's easier if you come willingly. The radio went dead. I sat there shaking, my mind racing. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. People don't get trapped in hidden valleys. Mountains aren't alive. This was someone messing with me. Had to be. But that voice at the end, the way it had changed, the way it had sounded like Sarah but also like something else underneath, something ancient and hungry. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the corner of the cabin with my back to the wall, watching the windows, listening to every sound. The footsteps came around 3 a.m., climbing the stairs slowly. Then the knocking, 3 taps on each window, moving around the cabin in a circle. At dawn, I did my morning check-in. I kept my voice steady, reported the weather, said everything was fine. I didn't mention the radio calls, didn't mention the fear that was eating at me. Because Claire had been right about one thing. If I told them what was really happening, they'd pull me off the tower. They'd say I was having a mental break from the isolation, and part of me was starting to wonder if they'd be right. But then Tommy Chen came for his monthly resupply run. Tommy was the maintenance guy who hiked up once a month with fresh propane tanks, food supplies, and anything else I needed. He was in his mid-30s, quiet guy, didn't talk much. He arrived around noon, sweating from the climb, and started unloading supplies. "How's it been up here?" he asked while organizing the propane tanks. "Quiet, peaceful." He looked at me for a long moment. "You're a terrible liar, Brooks." "What do you mean?" "I can see it in your eyes." Same look Sarah had about 3 weeks before she disappeared. "You're hearing things, aren't you? The footsteps, the knocking?" I didn't answer. Couldn't answer. "It happens to everyone who stays up here too long," Tommy continued. "The isolation gets to you. Your mind starts filling the silence with sounds. It's normal." "Is it normal to receive radio calls from the dead?" Tommy stopped working. "What?" "Sarah Mitchell. I've been getting radio calls from her. She says she's lost, that she's trapped somewhere, that the mountain is calling to me too." Tommy sat down heavily on the tower stairs. "Jesus, it's happening faster with you than it did with her." "What's happening faster?" "The claiming. That's what the old-timers call it. The Smokies have always taken people, hikers, hunters, locals. People vanish in these mountains, and they're never found. Most folks blame it on getting lost, falling off cliffs, bear attacks. But some of us know better." "Know what?" "That there are places in these mountains that aren't quite right. Places where the rules don't work the way they should. The Cherokee knew about them, called them the place between breaths, the space where the world touches something else." "You sound like you believe this." "I've seen too much not to believe it. I've been working in these mountains for 15 years. I've seen the weird stuff, the lights in the forest that move wrong, the trails that appear and disappear, the voices that call people away from campsites. He looked up at the tower. And this tower, this specific tower, has a history. It's not just Sarah. There have been others over the years, lookouts who disappeared, or who came down changed. Not quite right anymore. Why didn't anyone tell me this before I took the job? Would you have believed us? Would you have taken the job if we had? He was right. I wouldn't have. I would have thought they were trying to scare me or making up stories. So, what do I do? I asked. You follow the rules. Don't leave the tower at night. Don't investigate the sounds. Don't respond to the voices on the radio. And most importantly, if something tries to lure you off this tower, you resist. No matter what it promises, no matter how real it seems, you stay put. And if I can't resist? Tommy stood up and started gathering his empty pack. Then you end up like Sarah. Lost in a place that doesn't exist on any map, calling out to whoever takes your place. He left shortly after, heading back down the trail. I watched him disappear into the forest, and suddenly the tower felt more isolated than ever, more like a trap than a refuge. That night, the calls started again. But this time, it wasn't just Sarah's voice. That night, at exactly midnight, the radio crackled to life again. But this time, it wasn't Sarah's voice. Ethan Brooks, fire lookout, 27 years old, from Knoxville, Tennessee. The voice was male, deep, with an echo like it was coming from the bottom of a well. "Who is this?" I demanded, my hand hovering over the radio. "We know you, Ethan. We've been watching you since the day you arrived. We watched Sarah, too. We've watched all of them. Every lookout who's ever sat in this tower. Some resist, some don't. Sarah didn't resist long enough. This isn't funny. Identify yourself, or I'm reporting this to dispatch. Dispatch can't help you. They're 12 miles away. We're right here, right outside, right below, right above. We're all around you, Ethan. We've always been here." I looked out the windows. The forest was dark, the moon hidden behind clouds. I couldn't see anything beyond the pool of light from my lantern. "What do you want?" "We want what we've always wanted. Company. These mountains are lonely. So many trees. So much silence. We need voices. We need life. We need you." "I'm not going anywhere." "You will." They all do eventually. The isolation breaks them. The sounds drive them mad. The loneliness becomes unbearable. And then they hear us calling. Beautiful voices. Promising warmth. Promising companionship. Promising an end to the terrible aloneness. Sarah mentioned lights in the forest. She said paths appear and disappear. Sarah was perceptive. She understood what was happening faster than most. That's why we took her so quickly. Only 3 weeks. Usually it takes months. But you, Ethan, you're even faster. Tommy was right. The claiming is accelerating with you. Why me? What makes me different? You came here broken, running from something, seeking isolation because the world hurt you. People like you are easier, people who want to disappear already. We just help them finish what they started. The voice was right. I had come here running from a failed relationship, running from a job I'd lost, running from a life that felt like it was falling apart. The tower had seemed like salvation, a place to reset, to find peace. But I'd brought my loneliness with me, and something in these mountains had noticed. "I'm not listening to this anymore," I said, reaching to turn off the radio. "Look out the south window," the voice said. Against my better judgment, I looked, and I saw them. Lights. Dozens of them, moving through the forest about a quarter mile away. They looked like lanterns or flashlights, but they moved wrong. Too smooth, too coordinated, weaving between trees in patterns that seemed almost choreographed. Beautiful, aren't they?
Sarah thought so. She watched them for 3 nights before she couldn't resist anymore. She climbed down from the tower and followed them into the forest. We were waiting for her. We're waiting for you, too. I'm not Sarah. No, you're weaker. You'll break faster. The radio went silent, but the lights continued their dance in the forest, and I couldn't look away. They were beautiful, mesmerizing. Part of me wanted to understand what they were, wanted to follow them, wanted to know where they led. I forced myself to turn away, to sit with my back to the window, but I could still see the reflected glow on the cabin walls, still feel the pull. At 3 a.m. the footsteps came, but this time they didn't stop at the door. This time the door handle turned, slowly, testing, finding it locked. "Let us in, Ethan," Sarah's voice called from the other side of the door. "It's cold out here." "I've been outside for so long. Please, just open the door." "You're not Sarah," I said, my back pressed against the far wall. "I am Sarah. I'm the part of her that's still human, the part that remembers what it was like to be warm, to be safe, to not be alone." The door handle rattled harder. "Please, Ethan. I'm so tired, so cold. Just let me in." "If you're really Sarah, tell me about your last day. What happened? How did you disappear?" There was a pause. Then, "I was making dinner. Chili. I was heating it on the stove when I heard singing. Beautiful singing. I thought maybe there were hikers nearby, even though it was late. I opened the door to look. And they were there, on the stairs, dozens of them, people in old-fashioned clothes, climbing up to me, reaching out their hands, asking me to join them. And I did. I took their hands, and they led me down the stairs and into the forest, and I've been walking ever since, lost in a place that doesn't exist. Please don't let that happen to you. Please let me in so I can warn you properly. You are warning me. You're telling me not to open the door. No, I'm telling you that you can't stay in there forever. Eventually, you'll have to come out, and when you do, we'll be waiting. But if you let me in, if you listen to what I have to say, maybe I can help you resist. Maybe I can tell you how to survive." It was tempting. God, it was tempting. To open that door. To have someone to talk to. To not be alone anymore. To hear a human voice that wasn't filtered through a radio. But I remembered what Tommy had said. Don't investigate the sounds. Don't respond to the voices. Stay in the tower. I'm sorry, Sarah, but I'm not opening this door. The rattling stopped. Then I heard something that made my blood run cold. Laughter. Multiple voices, laughing in unison. And they weren't laughing like humans. It was a sound that rose and fell in waves, like wind through trees, like water over rocks. "Clever boy," the voices said together. "But you can't stay in there forever." And we're patient. We've been here for thousands of years. We can wait a few more weeks. The presence outside the door faded. The laughter died away. And I was alone again in the silence. I didn't do my morning check-in at 7 a.m. I couldn't. I was too terrified to use the radio, too afraid of what might answer instead of Claire. I sat in the corner of the cabin, watching the windows, jumping at every sound. At 7:30, the radio crackled to life on its own. "Camera Tower, this is dispatch. You missed your morning check-in. Respond, please." It was Claire's voice. Real, human, normal. I grabbed the radio like a lifeline. "Dispatch, this is Camera. Sorry, I overslept." "You okay up there, Ethan?" "You sound stressed." "I'm fine. Just tired. Didn't sleep well. Do you need a rotation?" "We can send someone up to relieve you for a few days." Yes, I wanted to scream. Yes, get me out of here. Send someone, anyone. I can't do this anymore. But then I thought about Tommy's words. The claiming is accelerating with you. What if I left and someone else took my place? What if they didn't know what they were walking into? What if they ended up like Sarah? No, I said. I'm okay. I'll stick it out. Just a bad night. All right. But Ethan, if you need anything at all, you call me. Day or night. I'm here. You're not alone up there, okay? Okay. Thanks, Claire. Kammerer, before you sign off, I need to tell you something. Bob Sullivan wants to come up there tomorrow. He's concerned about some of your recent reports, about the transmissions you've been receiving. I haven't been imagining things, Claire. I know, I believe you. But Bob wants to check on you in person. Make sure you're okay. He'll be there around noon tomorrow. Relief flooded through me. Someone was coming. I wouldn't be alone much longer. Just one more day. I could make it one more day. Copy that. I'll be here. That day was the longest of my life. I tried to focus on my job, scanning the horizon for smoke, taking weather readings, updating logs, normal tasks, normal routine. But every few minutes I'd find myself staring at the forest, looking for movement, looking for lights, listening for voices. The forest looked different in daylight, less threatening. Just trees and mountains and sky. It was hard to believe that something malevolent could hide in such beauty. But as the sun set, painting the mountains in shades of orange and red, I felt the dread returning. Night was coming, and with it, the voices, the lights, the things that wanted me to join them in the space between breaths. I did my evening check-in at 6 p.m., reported everything normal, then locked myself in the cabin. I pushed my cot against the door as an extra barrier. I kept every light on, even though it made me more visible. The darkness outside felt too alive, too aware. At midnight, they came back. This time, there was no radio transmission, no voices calling from outside. Instead, I heard footsteps, dozens of them, all around the tower, circling, like a pack of predators surrounding prey. I looked out the windows and saw them. People, or things that looked like people, standing in a circle around the tower's base, looking up at me. Some were dressed in old hiking clothes from decades past. Some wore ranger uniforms from different eras. Some were in clothing so old it looked like it came from the 1800s, and all of them had the same expression. Empty, waiting, patient. "We're here, Ethan," Sarah's voice called up, but this time I could see her. She was standing directly below the south window. Her ranger uniform was torn and dirty, her face was pale, and her eyes reflected the light like an animal's. "We've come to bring you home, to show you the place we've found, the place where no one is ever alone, where the cold can't touch you, where time moves differently, where you can rest." I don't want to rest. I want to do my job. I want to stay here until Bob Sullivan arrives tomorrow. Then I'm going to go down the mountain and never come back. "Bob isn't coming, Ethan." "Yes, he is," Claire told me. "Noon tomorrow. Check your calendar." "What day is it?"
I looked at my calendar where I'd been crossing off days, and my blood ran cold. Because according to my marks, I'd been crossing off the same day over and over. The calendar still showed it was the same date it had been 3 days ago. "That's not possible. I've been marking the days. I've been keeping track. Time moves differently when we're watching you. When we're calling you. Days blur together. Hours repeat. You've been sitting in this tower for much longer than you think, Ethan. Bob isn't coming. Claire isn't coming. No one is coming. Because from their perspective, you've only been up here for 3 days. But for you, it's been weeks, months, years. Time has stopped having meaning." No, that's not true.
You're lying, trying to confuse me. Look at your food supplies. Look at how much you've eaten. Look at how much propane you've used. I looked, and she was right. I'd gone through too much food, used too much propane. More than 3 days' worth, far more. How long have I been here? I whispered. Does it matter? You're trapped now, trapped in a loop, the same days repeating, the same nights, the same voices, over and over until you break, until you give up and come to us. That's what happened to Sarah. She lived in this tower for 6 months before she finally gave in. But we're patient. We can wait for you, too. Someone will notice. Someone will come looking for me. They will. Eventually, they'll hike up here and find the tower empty. Your belongings arranged neatly. Your radio on the right frequency. And they'll search for you. And they'll never find you. Because you'll be where all the lost ones go. In the place between breaths. In the hollow spaces of these mountains. With us. The circle of figures began to climb, all of them at once, coming up the stairs, their feet making that slow, methodical sound on the metal. Dozens of footsteps overlapping, getting closer. I grabbed my radio. Dispatch, this is Camera Tower. Emergency, I need immediate assistance. They're coming for me. Please respond. Static. Just static. Claire! Anyone! Please respond. I need help. And then, through the static, a voice. But it wasn't Claire's. No one can hear you, Ethan. No one but us. We're the only ones listening now. We're the only ones who care. Come out, come down, join us. End this terrible loneliness. End this fear. Let us show you what it means to truly belong. The figures reached the platform outside the cabin. I could see their faces pressed against the windows, dozens of them, all watching, all waiting, all empty. The door handle turned again, but this time, despite the lock, despite the cot I'd pushed against it, the door began to open, slowly, inevitably. No, I said, pushing against it with all my strength. No, you can't come in. You can't have me. We don't need to come in, Sarah's voice said. You're going to come out. Eventually. Because you're human. And humans can't survive in isolation. It's not in your nature. The loneliness will break you. And when it does, we'll be here. Waiting. Always waiting. I held that door for hours. My muscles screaming. My mind fracturing. Fighting against something that shouldn't exist, against the claiming, against the hunger of these ancient mountains. And then, just before dawn, they stopped. The pressure on the door ceased. The faces withdrew from the windows. The voices fell silent. And I was alone again. I collapsed on the floor, gasping for breath. Covered in sweat despite the cold. And I realized something. This was how Sarah had felt. This was the terror she'd experienced. This was why she'd eventually given up and walked into the forest. Because fighting was exhausting. Resisting was torture. And the promise of company, even wrong company, even dangerous company, was so tempting when the alternative was this crushing isolation. When the sun rose, I forced myself to do a morning check-in. But this time, I didn't follow the script. This time, I told Claire everything. About the voices, about time not moving right, about Sarah and the others surrounding the tower, about how I was being claimed and I didn't know how to stop it. There was a long silence after I finished. Then Claire's voice came through, gentle but firm. Ethan, I'm sending Bob up immediately, with 2 other rangers. They'll be there by afternoon. You're going to come down off that tower. You're going to get medical attention. And you're never going back up there. Do you understand? What about the next lookout? What about whoever replaces me? There won't be a next lookout. We're decommissioning that tower, converting to satellite monitoring for that sector. Whatever is happening on that mountain, we're done sacrificing people to it. So Sarah's disappearance will be the last? If I have anything to say about it, yes. They arrived at 2 p.m. Bob Sullivan and 2 younger rangers I didn't know. They found me curled in the corner of the cabin, exhausted, malnourished, barely coherent. According to their logs, I'd been on the tower for exactly 3 weeks. But for me, it had felt like months. They escorted me down the mountain. Bob walked close beside me, his hand on my arm, like he was afraid I'd bolt into the forest. Maybe I would have. Part of me still heard the voices calling, still saw the lights in my peripheral vision, still felt the pull of the place between breaths. At the trailhead, an ambulance was waiting. They loaded me in, did medical checks, found me physically fine but psychologically shattered. They kept me in observation for 3 days. Psychiatrists interviewed me, asked about hallucinations, about stress, about mental health history. I told them everything. They nodded and took notes and prescribed medication. They were kind, but clear in their diagnosis. Isolation-induced psychosis. A breakdown brought on by sensory deprivation and loneliness. Not uncommon in fire lookouts, they said. Rotation schedules exist. Why no one is supposed to stay alone for more than a few weeks. But I knew the truth. It wasn't psychosis. It was the mountain, the Smokies, the ancient thing that lived in the space between breaths, that called to lonely people and claimed them for its own. They offered me a different position, dispatch, office work, anything that didn't involve isolation. I took the dispatch job. I needed to stay connected to what was happening, needed to make sure they kept their promise about decommissioning the tower. They did. 2 months later, Kammerer Tower was officially closed. The cabin was dismantled. The metal framework was left standing, but the living quarters were removed. No more lookouts, no more victims. But I still hear the voices sometimes. Late at night, when I'm alone in my apartment, I hear footsteps outside my door. Hear knocking on my windows. Hear Sarah calling to me from somewhere far away. Ethan, we're still waiting. We'll always be waiting. You can't escape us. You're marked. You're ours. Come back to the mountains. Come home. I don't go back. I won't go back. But the pull is always there. The loneliness is always there. And I know deep down that someday I might not be strong enough to resist. 3 weeks ago, I got a call at dispatch. A hiker reported hearing strange singing near where Kammerer Tower used to stand. They said they saw lights in the forest, saw figures in old-fashioned clothes watching from the trees. I sent a ranger to investigate, filed the proper reports, did my job. But I didn't tell the ranger what they might really find, didn't warn them about the claiming, didn't explain about the space between breaths. Because who would believe me? And what could they do anyway? The mountain has been hungry for thousands of years. It's not going to stop just because we removed one tower. All we can do is what the Cherokee did. Stay away from certain places. Don't investigate the lights. Don't follow the voices. And if you hear someone calling your name from the forest, especially if it's someone who disappeared, don't answer. Just keep walking. And pray you're strong enough to resist. If you're thinking about taking a fire lookout job, please listen to me. The solitude seems appealing. The isolation seems peaceful. But humans aren't meant to be alone. Not truly alone. Not for weeks or months at a time. And if you do take the job, follow the rules. Do your rotations. Get off the tower regularly. Stay connected to people. Don't let the loneliness take root, because in places like the Smokies, in wild spaces where the old things still live, loneliness is a predator, and it's always hunting.
Sarah Mitchell is still out there somewhere, lost in the place between breaths, calling out to whoever takes her place, trying to lure them into the same trap that claimed her. I hear her sometimes on the dispatch radio, late at night when the frequency drifts, her voice mixed with static asking for help that will never come, and I have to turn away, have to ignore her, have to let her stay lost, because the alternative is joining her, and I'm not ready for that. Not yet. Maybe not ever. But the voices keep calling, and every day resisting gets a little harder.